What if everything keeping you weak, every doubt, every fear, every moment someone made you feel small, could be destroyed with 7 truths? Not feel-good advice. Not motivational fluff. I'm talking about forbidden psychological weapons buried in Nietzsche's philosophy that turn your mind into an impenetrable fortress. Truths so dangerous to the comfortable lies we're fed that most people will never hear them. But you're about to. Welcome to Nietzsche Unchained. Right now, you're one decision away from becoming mentally untouchable. Not arrogant. Not closed off. But immune to the manipulation, the negativity, the weakness that keeps most people trapped in psychological chains they don't even know they're wearing. Today we're going where philosophy gets uncomfortable, into the 7 forbidden truths that separate the psychologically invincible from everyone else. These aren't theories. They're not abstract concepts for academics to debate over coffee. These are battle-tested principles for mastering your mind in a world designed to break it. Fair warning, what you're about to discover will challenge everything you thought you knew about strength, suffering, and what it means to be truly free. Some of these truths will make you uncomfortable. Discomfort is where transformation begins. So if you're ready to stop being a victim of your own thoughts, to rise above the chaos, and to build a psychology that nothing can shake, then let's begin. Because these 7 truths don't just change your mindset. They rebuild you from the ground up. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This isn't content you stumble upon twice. Let's get into it. Forbidden truth number 1. Your suffering is your superpower. Let's start with the truth that destroys victimhood forever. Your suffering is not your enemy. It's your greatest teacher, your forge, your crucible for transformation. Nietzsche said it best, that which does not kill us makes us stronger. But most people hear that quote and nod along without understanding the depth beneath it. Nietzsche wasn't talking about passive survival. He was talking about active transformation, deliberately extracting power from pain. Think about it. Every time you've grown, every time you've discovered a capacity you didn't know you had, it came through struggle. The breakup that taught you self-reliance. The failure that forced you to innovate. The betrayal that showed you who you really are. But here's where most people get it wrong. They try to avoid suffering at all costs. They numb themselves with distractions, substances, endless entertainment. And in doing so, they avoid the very experiences that would forge them into something extraordinary. The psychologically untouchable don't run from suffering. They metabolize it. They ask, what is this teaching me? How can I use this? What strength am I building right now? Let me give you a real example. There's a story about a fighter, let's call him Marcus. He lost his first 5 professional fights. Humiliating losses. His family told him to quit. His friends stopped showing up to his matches. Most people would have crumbled under that psychological weight. But Marcus did something different. After each loss, he didn't make excuses. He studied the tape obsessively. He identified every weakness. He used the pain of embarrassment as fuel to train harder than anyone in his gym. Within 2 years he went on a 15-fight winning streak. When asked what changed, he said, I stopped seeing losses as failures. I started seeing them as expensive lessons I was lucky enough to receive. That's the first forbidden truth in action. Suffering becomes superpower when you refuse to be its victim. Here's your action step. The next time you face difficulty, and you will, resist the urge to complain or escape. Instead, grab a journal and write down 3 specific ways this challenge is making you stronger. 3 skills you're developing. 3 insights you're gaining. Do this consistently and you'll rewire your brain to see obstacles as opportunities. Ask yourself right now, what's one painful experience from your past that actually made you stronger? How did you grow from it? Hold on to that answer. You're about to need it. Now that you understand suffering is not something to avoid but something to transform, we need to address the lie that keeps most people weak even when they want to be strong. It's a lie about morality, about being good, about following the rules. And it's the second forbidden truth. Forbidden truth number 2. Good and evil are chains. Create your own values. Here's the truth that society doesn't want you to know. Most of what you call good and bad wasn't chosen by you. It was programmed into you by family, culture, religion, social media, peer pressure. You've been living by someone else's value system, calling it your own. Nietzsche called this slave morality, a system of values designed to keep people obedient, predictable, and weak. Not because there's some conspiracy but because societies need order, and order requires conformity. But the psychologically untouchable? They don't conform. They create. This doesn't mean becoming immoral or hurting others. It means taking radical responsibility for your own ethical framework. It means asking, What do I actually believe? What values do I choose to live by because they make me stronger, more authentic, more alive? Nietzsche talked about the Übermensch, the person who creates their own values rather than inheriting them. This isn't about superiority over others. It's about sovereignty over yourself. Let me give you a concrete example. Think about someone who stays in a soul-crushing job because society says they should be grateful to have employment. They sacrifice their mental health, their dreams, their vitality, all because they've internalized values that don't serve them. Now imagine that same person asking, what do I value? Freedom? Creativity? Impact? Growth? And then having the courage to build a life around those values, even if it means disappointing others or taking risks. That's not selfishness. That's self-authorship. I knew someone, Sarah, who was a lawyer. 6-figure salary, impressive title, everything society told her she should want. But she was miserable. Every day felt like betrayal of who she really was. She loved art, creativity, helping people through coaching. For years, she stayed because she was terrified of judgment. Her parents had sacrificed to put her through law school. Her colleagues would think she was crazy. Society told her leaving would be failure. But then she asked herself a forbidden question: whose life am I living? Within a year, she transitioned to life coaching and art therapy. She made less money. She faced criticism. But she told me, I finally feel like myself. I'm not performing someone else's idea of success anymore. That's the power of creating your own values. Here's your action step. Take 15 minutes this week to write down the 10 values you actually live by right now. Not the ones you claim to have, but the ones your actions reveal. Then write down the 10 values you want to live by. Compare them. Where's the gap? That gap is where your work begins. And here's the uncomfortable question. What belief are you holding on to simply because you're afraid of what others would think if you let it go? Once you start creating your own values, you're going to face resistance. From others, yes. But mostly from yourself. Because there's a voice in your head that's been running the show for years, and it's built on the third forbidden truth, one that most people never recognize, let alone conquer. Forbidden truth number 3, your inner critic is a parasite, starve it or it will consume you. Let's talk about the voice in your head. You know the one. The one that tells you you're not good enough, smart enough, worthy enough. The one that catastrophizes, that replays your failures, that convinces you to play small. Most people think that voice is them. It's not. It's a psychological parasite that's been feeding on your mental energy for years. Nietzsche understood this deeply. He talked about ressentiment, this toxic, self-poisoning resentment that comes from internalizing criticism and weakness. When you believe the negative voice, you become your own worst enemy. But here's what makes you psychologically untouchable: recognizing that this voice is not your truth. It's a collection of old wounds, past criticisms, societal programming, and fear responses. And like any parasite, it can only survive if you keep feeding it. The psychologically weak feed their inner critic constantly. They ruminate. They replay failures. They catastrophize about the future. They treat every negative thought as gospel truth. The psychologically untouchable do something radical. They starve the parasite. Let me explain how this works. Imagine you're about to give a presentation. Your inner critic says, you're going to mess this up. Everyone will judge you. You're not prepared enough. Most people hear that and either fight it, no I won't, I'm great, or surrender to it, you're right, I should cancel. Both responses feed the parasite because both take it seriously. The untouchable response is different. Thanks for sharing. That's not useful right now. I'm doing this anyway. You acknowledge the voice without obeying it. You recognize it without giving it power. There's a technique from acceptance and commitment therapy that's powerful here. It's called cognitive diffusion. Instead of thinking, I'm a failure, you think, I'm having the thought that I'm a failure. See the difference? One is identity. The other is observation. I had a mentor who used to do something brilliant with his inner critic. Whenever it spoke up, he'd imagine it as a small, anxious creature sitting on his shoulder. He'd even thank it sarcastically, thanks, Kevin. Very helpful as always. Now let me work. By giving his inner critic a ridiculous name and treating it like a neurotic companion rather than the voice of truth, he stripped it of power. Here's your action step. For the next 7 days, keep a parasite log. Every time your inner critic speaks up, write down what it said. Don't fight it, don't believe it, just document it. By the end of the week, you'll see patterns. You'll realize it's the same handful of lies on repeat. And repetition without variation reveals fiction, not truth. The question for you: What's one recurring negative thought you've been treating as truth? What if it's not true at all? What if it's just noise? As you learn to starve the inner parasite, you'll discover something incredible. You have more mental energy than you realized. But where should that energy go? That brings us to the fourth forbidden truth, one that separates those who survive from those who truly thrive. Forbidden truth number 4. Meaning is not found, it's forged in the fire of purpose. Here's a truth that will set you free. Life has no inherent meaning. There's no cosmic instruction manual, no predetermined purpose handed down from the universe. And that's not depressing. That's liberating. Nietzsche saw this clearly when he declared, "God is dead." He wasn't celebrating atheism. He was acknowledging that the old sources of meaning, religion, tradition, inherited purpose, were losing their grip. And he knew this would create a crisis for humanity. But here's what most people miss. Nietzsche wasn't saying life is meaningless. He was saying meaning is now your responsibility. You have to create it. You have to forge it through purposeful action. The psychologically untouchable understand this at a bone-deep level. They don't wait for meaning to arrive. They don't search for their calling like it's buried treasure. They choose a purpose and commit to it with everything they have. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived Nazi concentration camps, echoed this truth. In the worst circumstances imaginable, he observed that prisoners who had a why, a purpose to survive for, had dramatically better chances of survival than those who didn't. He wrote, "Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how." That's the power of self-created meaning. But here's where people get stuck. They think their purpose needs to be grand, world-changing, Instagram-worthy. It doesn't. Your purpose could be mastering a craft, building a strong family, creating art that moves people, helping your community, becoming the strongest version of yourself. What matters is not the scale. What matters is the commitment. I know a man named David who works in construction. On paper, nothing glamorous. But he chose a purpose, to be the person who does every job with excellence, who mentors younger workers, who takes pride in building things that last. That purpose transforms his work from labor into meaning. When you forge your own meaning, you become untouchable because nothing external can take it away. Your meaning isn't dependent on others' approval, success, recognition. It's yours. Here's your action step. Complete this sentence and write it somewhere you'll see it daily. My life is meaningful because I commit to. Not, my life will be meaningful when. Or, I hope my life is meaningful through. No. Present tense. Active voice. You're not waiting for meaning. You're declaring it. And here's your reflection question. If you had to choose one purpose to dedicate the next 5 years of your life to, something that would make you proud regardless of whether anyone else noticed, what would it be? Now, as you forge your meaning and step into your purpose, you're going to encounter something that stops most people cold. It's not external obstacles. It's not other people. It's the fifth forbidden truth, and it's about the most dangerous comfort zone you'll ever face. Forbidden truth number 5. Comfort is a slow death. Embrace voluntary hardship. Here's a truth that modern society desperately tries to hide from you. Comfort is killing you slowly. Not physically, though sedentary lifestyles certainly contribute, but psychologically, spiritually, in the architecture of your character. Nietzsche understood this when he wrote, "The secret for harvesting from existence the greatest fruitfulness and the greatest enjoyment is, to live dangerously." He wasn't advocating recklessness. He was recognizing that human beings are anti-fragile. We don't just resist stress, we grow from it. But only if we choose it voluntarily. The psychologically untouchable practice something I call strategic discomfort. They deliberately place themselves in challenging situations not because they have to, but because they know it builds psychological armor. Think about it. Every time you choose comfort over challenge, you're training your brain that difficulty is to be avoided. You're making yourself more fragile, more dependent, less capable. But every time you voluntarily embrace hardship, a cold shower, a difficult conversation, a challenging workout, a creative project that scares you, you're sending your brain the opposite message. I can handle hard things. I choose hard things. Hard things make me stronger. The Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, one of the most powerful men in the world, would regularly practice voluntary discomfort. He'd sleep on the floor, wear simple clothes, expose himself to cold. What? To remind himself that he didn't need comfort to be okay. There's a modern phenomenon I call comfort addiction. People are so accustomed to ease, temperature-controlled environments, instant entertainment, immediate gratification, that any discomfort feels like a crisis. You see it everywhere. Someone gets slightly cold and acts like they're dying. Someone has to wait 5 minutes and becomes irritable. Someone faces mild criticism and has an emotional breakdown. This isn't just inconvenient. It's psychologically crippling. Let me share a story. I know a woman named Lisa who decided to practice voluntary hardship. Nothing extreme. She started taking cold showers, doing hard workouts before work, having one difficult conversation per week that she'd been avoiding. She told me something profound. Within 3 months, my anxiety around normal life challenges decreased dramatically. Not because my life got easier, but because my tolerance for discomfort expanded. Things that used to feel overwhelming now feel manageable. That's the power of this truth. Here's your action step. Choose one form of voluntary hardship to practice this week. Some options: cold showers for 60 seconds, a challenging workout, having a difficult conversation you've been avoiding, fasting for 16 hours, waking up an hour earlier, working on your hardest project first thing in the morning. Start small but be consistent. The goal isn't punishment. The goal is expanding your window of tolerance so that normal life challenges feel easy by comparison. Here's your question. What's one comfort you're clinging to that's actually making you weaker? What would happen if you let it go for just 1 week? As you build your tolerance for discomfort, something interesting happens. You start noticing how many people around you are stuck in comfortable misery. And you'll feel the pull to save them, to fix them, to drag them along on your journey. That impulse leads us directly to the 6th forbidden truth, and it's one that will test your compassion and your wisdom. Forbidden truth number 6. You cannot save everyone. Guard your energy ruthlessly. This truth is difficult because it seems to contradict compassion. But hear me out. You cannot save everyone. And trying to do so will destroy you. Nietzsche talked about the difference between pity and compassion. Pity, he argued, is weakness. It's feeling bad about someone suffering in a way that diminishes both you and them. Compassion, true compassion, is wanting to see people become stronger, not just feeling sorry for them. But here's what the psychologically untouchable understand. Your energy is finite. Your time is limited. Your psychological bandwidth is not infinite. And if you pour yourself into people who are not ready or willing to change, you will drain yourself dry. This doesn't mean being cold or uncaring. It means being strategic about where you invest your energy. It means recognizing that you can't want someone's growth more than they want it themselves. There's a concept in psychology called emotional labor. It's the energy you expend managing others' emotions, fixing their problems, carrying their psychological weight. Some emotional labor is part of healthy relationships. But when it becomes one-sided, chronic, and draining, it's a trap. I learned this lesson the hard way. Years ago I had a friend, let's call him Jake, who was constantly in crisis. Relationship drama, financial disasters, self-destructive patterns. And I was there for every crisis, every late-night call, every emergency. I thought I was being a good friend. But here's what I didn't see. Jake wasn't changing. He was using my support as a way to avoid taking responsibility. Every time I rescued him, I reinforced his helplessness. It took me years to realize I wasn't helping him. I was enabling him. And I was exhausting myself in the process. When I finally set boundaries, I care about you but I can't be your emergency contact for problems you're not willing to work on, he was angry. But within 6 months he started actually addressing his patterns. Because he had to. The psychologically untouchable practice what I call compassionate boundaries. They care deeply but refuse to be drained by those who won't help themselves. Here's the hard truth. Some people are energy vampires. They're not bad people, but they're in a pattern of extracting energy from others without reciprocating. They're victims of their own narrative, and they'll make you a victim of it too if you let them. Your responsibility is not to fix everyone. Your responsibility is to protect your energy so you can show up powerfully for the people who truly matter and who reciprocate your investment. Here's your action step. Make a list of your relationships. Divide them into 3 categories: energy givers, people who energize you; energy neutral, balanced relationships; and energy takers, people who consistently drain you. Look at that third category honestly. What boundaries do you need to set? And here's your difficult question. Who in your life are you trying to save who doesn't want to be saved? What would it look like to release that burden? We've covered 6 powerful truths, and if you've absorbed them, you're already on the path to becoming psychologically untouchable. But there's one final truth, perhaps the most important one, that ties everything together. It's about the ultimate act of psychological sovereignty, and it's something Nietzsche placed at the center of his entire philosophy. Forbidden truth number 7. Amor fati. Love your fate, even the darkness. The final forbidden truth is this: you must love your fate. All of it. Not just the victories and the beautiful moments, but the failures, the betrayals, the tragedies, the darkness. Nietzsche called this amor fati, love of fate. He wrote, "My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity." This isn't passive acceptance. This isn't resignation. This is the ultimate act of psychological power, choosing to embrace everything that has happened and everything that will happen as necessary for becoming who you are. Think about the weight most people carry. Regret about the past. Anxiety about the future. Resentment toward people who hurt them. Bitterness about opportunities they lost. All of that is resistance to reality. All of that is wasted energy. The psychologically untouchable do something radical. They look at their entire life, the trauma, the mistakes, the pain, the darkness, and they say, "I wouldn't change a thing, because all of it made me who I am." This is not toxic positivity. You're not pretending bad things were good. You're recognizing that those things forged you, taught you, gave you depth and strength and wisdom. I want to tell you about someone I deeply respect, a woman named Maria. She was in an abusive relationship for years. She lost custody of her children temporarily. She battled addiction. She hit absolute rock bottom. Years later, after rebuilding her life, becoming a counselor, helping hundreds of other women escape similar situations, someone asked her, "If you could go back and erase all that suffering, would you?" She said something that stuck with me: "I wouldn't erase a second of it. Not because it was fun or pleasant, but because it was necessary. It broke me open in ways that made me capable of this work. It gave me empathy I couldn't have gained any other way. My wounds became my wisdom." That's amor fati. This is the ultimate psychological freedom. When you love your fate, nothing can be used against you. Your past can't be weaponized. Your failures can't be held over you. Your traumas can't define you. You become like water that's already been boiled. No temperature can hurt you because you've already been through the fire. Marcus Aurelius, echoing Stoic wisdom, wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Every obstacle is part of your path. Every setback is a setup. Every ending is a beginning. Here's your action step. Write a letter to your younger self. In it, tell them about the hardships that are coming. But instead of warning them away, explain why each hardship was necessary. Explain what they'll learn, who they'll become, why they needed that experience. Read that letter when you're facing current difficulties. Remind yourself that future you will understand why this matters. And here's your final reflection. If you could see your entire life from above, every joy and every sorrow, every triumph and every tragedy, and you understood that every single moment was necessary to create the fullest version of who you're meant to become, would you change anything? Or would you, like Nietzsche, choose it all again? So there they are. The 7 forbidden truths that make you psychologically untouchable. Let's recap. 1. Your suffering is your superpower. Transform pain into power. 2. Good and evil are chains. Create your own values. 3. Your inner critic is a parasite. Starve it or it will consume you. 4. Meaning is not found, it's forged in the fire of purpose. 5. Comfort is a slow death. Embrace voluntary hardship. 6. You cannot save everyone. Guard your energy ruthlessly. And 7. Amor fati. Love your fate, even the darkness. These aren't just ideas. They're not motivational fluff you consume and forget. They're psychological weapons that, when wielded consistently, transform you into someone who cannot be broken by external circumstances. But here's what I need you to understand. Knowing these truths changes nothing. Only living them matters. You're going to face a choice now. You can close this video, feel momentarily inspired, and return to your comfortable patterns. Or you can choose differently. You can choose one truth, just one, and commit to embodying it this week. Start small. Pick the truth that resonated most. Take the action step. Do it consistently. And watch what happens. Because here's what I've seen again and again. When someone genuinely commits to even one of these truths, their entire psychology begins to shift. They become harder to manipulate, harder to discourage, harder to break. They become psychologically untouchable. And the world desperately needs more untouchable people. Not people who are closed off or arrogant, but people who are so grounded in their own power, so clear in their purpose, so resilient in their psychology, that they can weather any storm and still stand. Nietzsche believed in the potential of the individual to overcome, to transcend, to create themselves anew. He believed in you before you existed. So here's my challenge. Prove him right. If this video resonated with you, subscribe to this channel. We're building a community of people committed to psychological mastery and authentic strength. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next video. Leave a comment below telling me which forbidden truth hit you hardest and what action you're committing to this week. I read every comment and I want to hear your story. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone who's struggling, someone who's searching, someone who's ready to stop being a victim and start being a force, share this video with them. Remember, you're not here by accident. You sought this out because something in you knows you're capable of more. Trust that instinct. The path to becoming psychologically untouchable starts now. Not tomorrow. Not when conditions are perfect. No. Welcome to the journey. I'll see you in the next video.